Well, hello, everyone. It's wonderful to be able to speak to you again today. Uh, Today, my presentation is entitled Repacking Your Bags, and that's day 27 of the Tao of Joy Every Day. And the subtitle I've chosen for this presentation is Letting Go. And the Letting Go title is really the main point of this whole presentation, but oddly enough, I'm not really going to talk about the main point until I talk about the smaller points and then sort of bring up this whole letting go thing at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right into it here. So to start out with, of course, life, my life, your life, all our lives are a journey. They're always a journey. They've always been a journey. And whether you follow the path or not, the Tao path, the path of Tao cultivation, there's still a journey. And sometimes I think, maybe spending lifetimes off the path was still part of the path to get to the path, if that makes any sense at all. So life is a journey, and in a sense, when you think about a journey, and just to use a micro example, I'm sure we've all taken vacations, right? And what do you do once you've determined your destination? You pack your bags and you get ready to go. And in this microcosm of an example, one of the good things to do, especially if you're going to be flying or something on this journey, is to pack light and keep it simple. If you can get away, if you're not going to be gone too long, if you can get away with just a carry-on instead of having to check a bag, that's good, because it's one less thing that can get lost, right? So, oops, drifted back there. So in this journey of life, it's good to think about what we take along with us as we go on this journey. And Derek, he talks very simply about some of the kinds of baggage that we can carry. Now, there can kind of be a negative connotation to the idea of baggage, right? Like if you've ever had a friend maybe who was dating someone who had kids, sometimes you'll hear people say things like, "Wow, she has 3 kids, huh? That's a lot of baggage," right? It has this negative connotation, and in some sense, not necessarily in that particular example, but the idea of baggage, there is sort of a negative connotation. You have to be careful of what baggage you're carrying. But I want to be clear and say that it would be incorrect to think that, getting rid of all baggage is the way to go. But by that, I mean, I don't want someone to think like, well, yeah, we should let go of material things. Well, we should. But at the same time, we all have material things in our lives that we use, that we need, that enrich our lives, and that's fine. The idea, though, is to let go of any unnecessary attachment to those things, use them for what they're needed for. And what I often think about is the sentiment in the Tao Te Ching about, sages can be trusted with everything because they don't attach to anything. And that's really kind of the idea, is that it's not so much what you carry with you, it's what you've basically detached from, essentially. So Derek, he talks about the 3 kinds of, he specifically mentions 3 kinds of baggage that we can encounter. So I'm just going to go through those. So the first one, of course, is material baggage, right? Things we hold on to because, frankly, we have an unhealthy attachment. Derek's talked about this many times. He's used examples from his own life. I've talked about it a couple of times. I've used examples. I think in one of my early Tao of Joy presentations, I brought up that I used to collect chess sets, and I used to collect model trains. Or I was a model train enthusiast, maybe is the way to say it. And in doing that, there was definitely some pleasure that came from it. But what I realized was the attachment had become a little too strong. And so for me, the best thing to do was to sort of let it go. And, the tricky part about doing this is you really have to figure out why you were attached to it in the first place and fix that. Otherwise, you'll end up just replacing those attachments either with some other attachments or with the same types of attachments again. So it's important to understand, why you do things. And a lot of what we do, frankly, it's subconscious. And that's why a spiritual practice is so important, whichever one works for you. One of the wonderful things about Taoism is that because it's so non-dogmatic, you can use it as a Christian, you can use it as a Muslim, you could use it as a Buddhist, you could use it as any form of religion you could think of. You can use it in conjunction with it. It doesn't have to take over those other things. It's just those teachings, regardless of what your religious context is. If you practice those teachings, they will work in your life. And the wisdom of not attaching to material things, is something that's talked about in different ways in other religions. But with the Tao, it's made very simply. In fact, that's the thing about the Tao teachings that's so wonderful. It's not like they're hard to follow. It's not like you have to sit there and go, I don't know if I'm intellectually ready to understand that. Really, they're quite simple. And it's their simplicity that makes them so beautiful and so amenable to any other things that people, or ideas that people have. So it's important to understand what your unhealthy attachments are. And, in the case of the chess sets, what I found was my attachment was I was dealing with the fact that I'd had a difficult relationship with my father. And one of the few things that we connected with well was the game of chess. And I think, honestly, that was sort of the reason why I chose chess set collection. Because I was trying to hold on to the one part of the relationship I had with my father, it seemed, that was good. And, once you understand why you're doing the things you do, then you can fix them. If you don't understand, it's hard to fix. And a lot of that requires an internal examination. And the best way to begin an internal examination of your life is to get really quiet, to get really calm, and then turn inward and take an honest look of the things you do. So that's and once I did that, once I realized that's what was going on, I could deal with it and acknowledge that, yeah, my father and I had a tough relationship, but what I choose to focus on is the good things. But I focus on them in my memory. When I think of my father, I don't think about the tough times we had together. I think about the countless hours where we sat across from each other and played chess, and that was a good time. Those were good times that we had, and that's how I choose to remember him. And in a sense, honestly, the other things between us were kind of baggage. Emotional baggage, not material baggage. They were emotional baggage. But in a way, they were kind of linked to my material baggage of collecting chess sets, which I had to let go. And I did let go, especially once I understood why I was doing it. So that sort of leads into the next point. So emotional baggage. We all have emotions that get in the way. And, just like I said with materialism, it's not like the saying about sages can be trusted with everything because they don't attach to anything. Well, in a way, it's the same thing. It's not like, some people get the false impression like, wow, emotional feelings are bad. Well, emotional feelings are natural. You're not going to be able to escape emotions and feelings. And by the way, there's good emotions and good feelings. Why wouldn't you want those? But when the Tao talks about, and Derek talked about this when he was talking about water, about can you let your mud settle? The idea that, if you give time and the mud will settle. If the mud represents the emotions in the water, they'll settle. And then you have clarity to see through the water, to even see the emotions for what they are. And that's, again, the first step is quietness, calmness, introspection. Understand, recognizing that the emotions you have are coming up and when they're coming up. Just knowing that, hey, I'm feeling sad right now. I'm feeling angry right now. I'm feeling joyous right now. Whatever the emotions are, recognizing that they're coming up. And this is particularly helpful when we're dealing with negative emotion. The first step is to recognize it. If you can recognize it, you might be able to make this leap after recognizing that it's coming up. And it's not even much of a leap once you recognize, hey, look, I have anger coming up. The first question to ask yourself is why? Why do I have anger? And the question that follows once I've been able to answer that is this worth getting angry over? And when I answered no, and I always answer no these days. Well, before I couldn't because I didn't even know to ask the question. But no, it's not. So then you can let go of it. And that's the baggage part of the emotion. That's the part we want to let go of. All right, so the third type of baggage, spiritual baggage. Spiritual beliefs that we have latched onto that are simply no longer useful to us. I don't want to say that you use this point 3 to sort of make an attack on all other religions except Taoism, right? I don't want to do that. I was raised Catholic. My mother was Irish and Catholic, and you know what? In retrospect, when I look back, I feel like I regret it. We all have to start somewhere, and that's where I started. And that's okay. And some people start there and stay there, and that's okay too. For me, it was better that I didn't stay there and that I moved on to something else. And because for me, I was able to do that, I achieved a better spiritual understanding. Now, someone else may be Catholic and Catholic till they're put in the ground. And that's fine as long as they're able to get their spiritual needs fulfilled through that way of doing it. And it's up to all of us. That's an individual choice. But regardless of what your choice is, the wonderful thing about Taoism is it doesn't say, hey, you have to convert over to Taoism and let all that stuff go. No. It says these teachings, these simple teachings, follow them, and you'll derive the benefits of a balanced, happy life. You will transform your life into a happy, balanced life. And you can do that if you're a Christian, a Muslim, or any other religion or practice. So there's the 3 types of baggage that Derek specifically talks about. And, of course, there's benefits to letting go of materialism. I mean, when you have too much of something, if you have clutter in your life, it's not pleasant. And letting it go can be very freeing. But more importantly is to understand why you're cluttered to begin with. If you can answer that question, you can fix it. And, one of the things I want to talk about material baggage too is some people don't think about this, but in a way, food can be an example of material baggage, right? Some of us, food is a material that we all need to survive, and we eat it. But I'm sure we've all heard the term reward eating, right? Where you're having a really bad day. And so you reward eat to feel better. We've probably all done it, some of us more than others. And I can tell you, I've been in the category of someone who's done it. And once again, you have to recognize, why do you do the things you do? And once you do that, you can address it, you can fix it. So an important aspect of material baggage too is to think about that. If you have a few pounds to lose, as I'm sure a lot of us do, the real question is, why do we have those pounds to begin with? There's usually a reason. And it's usually tied to some kind of emotion. So recognizing your emotions when they come up, it's really important to figure out which emotions are things that, frankly, once you've analyzed and understood why they're coming up, you can honestly say, you know what, I don't need that. And you can redirect your mind to think differently and let that go. That's what letting go of emotional baggage is. And then, of course, once you've sort of taken out that, you can replace it with that calm, balanced happiness that we all want. And that I think we've all had glimpses of also. We experienced. I'm sure we've all had days where we've been calm, balanced. The kind of day where sort of everything just falls into place. We've all had days like that, I'm sure. Well, that's a good thing. And the point about following the Tao teachings is that's something you can have all the time if you're willing to let the rubber meet the road and really put the Tao teachings to action in your life. Okay, so I'm going to start to sum up a little bit here, if I can. So we need to ask ourselves if we are carrying any unnecessary baggage that may be holding us back from reaching our full potential. Here we are on this journey of life that we have before us. And this is the time. This is the time and space where we can do something with it. We can make the most of this journey. We're all here for a reason. And, in achieving what it is we're here for, you fulfill your destiny. But sometimes doing that requires letting go a bit of those things that can sort of stand in the way. And we may not even be aware that they're standing in the way. But if we really get quiet and examine our lives, we'll see that there's things that we need to let go of in order to replace it with that calm, happy balance. So sometimes we have to open up our suitcases and repack for the journey ahead of us. If we find we're carrying around physical objects that serve no purpose to us any longer, then we have to make the choice to let those things go. It doesn't mean you sell or give away all your possessions and live a life devoid of anything at all, that you don't attach to anything at all. I mean, that's not realistic. It's okay to have things. The key is to not be attached to them for the wrong reasons, or not to be attached to them at all, really, but to use them for what they're meant to be used for. Materialism is bad, but it's not the material that's the problem. It's the why we hold on to the material in the first place. That's really truly the point you have to figure out in order to change that. And honestly, as Derek pointed out, that's kind of that's the easiest step, right? Letting go of the material stuff. But it sort of touches on the hard step, which is figuring out why you do things in the first place. It is tied to the emotional attachments as well, in a way. So next we have to consider our emotional baggage. We have to ask ourselves what emotional issues we may be clinging to that are interfering with our progress along the path. Is there someone in your life who seems to always get your goat and derail your day? Well, ask yourself a real honest question. Is it them, or is it the emotion you're bringing to the situation and not realizing it? You know, one of the things when I started to grow a little more that I realized, the question I really had to ask myself is, what if it's me? Now, we don't like to consider that. There's a part of us who thinks that we're the greatest thing on earth. But we really do have to be honest. What if it's me? I have to say, having asked that question, it was me. And it's still me. The advantage I have is I recognize more and more that it's me. It gives me the better chance to figure out why, which then allows me to move on and to not let things bother me that used to bother me, even though I didn't understand why. But once you start realizing, hey, am I the source of this? I mean, in some ways, you're the source of everything that happens in your life anyways. If you're experiencing a lot of negative emotion, I would almost guarantee you that the source is you. We don't like to admit that, but we have to in order to correct it. All right, it may also be necessary to examine our lives for spiritual baggage that no longer serves us in a positive way. Now, I'll tell you, when it comes to spiritual baggage, for me, it's really easy to examine the spiritual baggage of others and say, wow, they really need to let it go. But that's, you know what? The Tao is about self-transformation. So, you know, that may be really tempting sometimes, but that's not what we need to do. We need to be honest about what our spiritual baggage is. And one nice thing about all of us here in this meeting is we've chosen to be in this meeting weekly. We've chosen to make the Tao part of our lives. We've chosen to do our best to live the Tao teachings. Well, that's not spiritual baggage. That's really good. So, you know, actions and ideas that are contrary to those simple Tao teachings, for me, that is the spiritual baggage for me that I need to let go of. And as far as other people's spiritual baggage, you know what? That's their business. Then we have to focus on is what we can have the power to change, which is us. We can change us. And in changing us, you know, we set the best example we can for others. And we draw other people to us so we can share and fellowship with them. And so now we get to my last point, which really is what I wanted to talk about in a sense. Once we have made an honest examination of what we need to let go of, and then taken the actions required to rid ourselves of the different kinds of baggage we may have, we will be ready for the highest wisdom, letting go of letting go. And that's really why I chose the title, Letting Go, the subtitle for this presentation. You know, one, it's figuring out what baggage you have and letting that baggage go, and also making sure that you never pick up other baggage or the same baggage again. And I guess once you've done that, you don't have to think about it anymore. Now, I'm not there, but my eye's on the prize. I see that the time has come to wrap things up, and it's pretty good because I think I said everything I need to say. So I want to end, as always, with The Tao of Joy Every Day, a great book to use daily to help one study and learn the Tao teachings and put them into action. So there it was, repacking your bags, day 27, letting go. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to me today. I hope I said something that was helpful, and I hope you all have a wonderful Sunday.